you might be wondering, what is product management? And something that you often hear is PMs are the mini CEO of a product or feature. But what does that actually mean? Well, the role of a PM is to define what success looks like, what the grand vision for your product or feature is, and define the product roadmap to help your team get there. And your team comprises of people working on engineering, people working on design, people working on the business side. But the interesting thing about product management is you don't directly manage any of them. They have their own independent managers, but you still have to influence them. And the way you influence people on your team is by providing and bringing that user empathy to the table. You're going to be the customer advocate that goes out there and talks to your users, talks to your customers, looks at competitors, and figures out the biggest pain points and challenges that your users are facing. And you bring that voice to the table, and you use that to influence your team, to build towards this end state ideal goal. Now, the process for product management starts with ideation, which involves just coming up and talking to these users, coming up with ideas to solve their problems, figuring out what competitors are building. And then you go to the design stage. You start figuring out, if you were to build this, what would the back end look like? What would my user experience look like? Running some user testing with that. Then you go into actually implementing and testing it. Your engineering team builds it, you start testing and bashing any bugs that come up, and then the fun part, you release it. And you make sure that your customers are using your product, the adoption numbers are growing, you define success metrics to make sure you're on a healthy track, and you take any other user feedback when they're using your product for new ideas or other issues they're seeing, bring them back into this process, and keep iterating to make your product better and better.
With our courses, you will go from being a candidate to being the candidate. Sign up below to attend a PM interview webinar, where we mock interview an expert PM from Google to show you what 10 out of 10 interview responses look like.